Hello students. So continuing the discussion on processing of the composite material. So we have till now we have discussed the methods normally we use for a PMC, that is polymer matrix composites. So we have seen a different or a varieties of processing methods for thermosets and thermoplastics. So in this section, so we are going to discuss a few methods which we employ to process the metal matrix composites and the ceramic matrix composite materials. So in that one, very popular one, which normally used to produce, even we can use this one for a PMC also. It's a stir casting method. So many times I told, look into the word, you will understand what is that process is. Stir means it is continuously stirred, okay, or agitated. So casting. So already we know what exactly casting. The molten material is poured into a mold cavity and it is left for solidification. We are going to get a end product after curing it is, or a solidification is completed. So now why we need a stirring here? So in a normal metal casting, so it's only one alloy or a metal which we are going to pour into a mold cavity. But now when it comes to the composite material, we are going to mix the reinforcement material into a matrix material. Okay, so either it may be in a discontinuous fiber or in the form of a particles. So in order to have a proper distribution of those reinforcement material inside or into the matrix material, so where we can have a uniform strength distributed throughout the component, so we are going to stir in order to avoid the agglomeration or clustering of these particles in at a particular place. So how exactly this stir casting is going to work out? So the pictorial view is as shown in the figure. So normally these ceramic particles which are having a high melting point are dispersed in a metal matrix. Okay. So those are stirred continuously in order to have a proper distribution or a dispersion, and then it is transferred through the ladle into a mold cavity and it is left for solidification and the end product is obtained. So in order to have a stirring action, so there will be electric motor, okay, so with the stirrer. So you can see the stirring screw here, okay. So this is a crucible in which we are going to have a molten metal or a matrix material in a molten state, and this is a furnace which we need in order to heat the metal or maybe the polymer matrix. And through the one more crucible, we are going to pour a reinforcement. So there we can use a carrier gas in order to avoid or in order to have a proper distribution of these reinforcement into the matrix material. So normally an argon is used as a carrier gas to assist the injection of these reinforcement in the clean form. Okay. So if not, they may get oxidized. Okay. So once these reinforcement are poured into the molten metal or the alloy, the molten matrix material is continuously stirred. Okay. And a force is applied during the stirring. Okay, so in order to have a proper dispersion of these reinforcement material uniformly in the matrix material in a short period. Then, so whatever the matrix material which is with the particles, that is a reinforcement particle, so it is then transferred to a mold cavity which is in the shape of a end product. Okay, so then it is left for a solidification, and then we are going to take out the end product. So the mold cavity normally is preheated in order to avoid the distortion, or in order to avoid the larger temperature difference between the pouring crucible and the mold cavity. So the mold cavity normally is heated to a particular temperature. So in order to avoid a larger temperature difference, which may cause a sudden contraction, or a shrinkage in the final product. Okay, so this process so is employed in order to produce a metal matrix composites. Okay, so we can have a shapes which is a replica of the mold cavity, and we can have even the ceramic materials which are dispersed in a metal matrix also. So what are the advantages normally we get? High material yield, comparably low initial cost. So limitations, possibility of agglomeration. So if the stirring action is not a proper, okay, it is not, if it is not properly designed, so then there may be clustering of the reinforcement material, which may lead to the non-uniform distribution of these reinforcement particles. So sedimentation of reinforcements at the bottom of the as-cast material. So if there is a density difference between the matrix and the reinforcement material, due to this not improper stirring action, so there may be chances of sedimentation of these reinforcement particles at the bottom of the casting structure. So high interfacial reactions. So those are limitations normally we observe for a stir casting method. Okay. So the one more method normally we use for a metal matrix composite is a squeeze casting. So normally this is used even for a metals and alloys. Okay, so even this one can be used for a fabrication of a metal matrix composite. So when we see here, so we have a two parts. Okay, so one a lower fixed mold, and one more will be upper movable mold part. Okay, the upper part is used to apply the pressure, okay, and forcing the molten metal, okay, which is placed above that one to get penetrated into the fiber. Okay, so here the lower cavity is going to have the desired shape of the component, this one. Okay, and the lower is provided the ejector pin. So once the curing of the product is done, then in order to eject the final product, this ejector pin is provided. So once the mold cavity is designed to the required shape, then a preform, that is a fibers which are in a continuous or a discontinuous or a mat or a tape form are placed in the mold cavity. So above that one, so a molten matrix material is poured. Okay. So once the fibers and the reinforcement is done, then the upper movable part is placed over the lower fixed part in order to apply the pressure with the help of a hydraulic press. Okay. So then this whole die is heated to a particular temperature. So depending upon the the matrix and the reinforcement which normally we use. Okay. So this whatever the downward force will force the liquid, okay, so will force the liquid material to penetrate into the preform or the fiber which is placed underneath. So there will be a proper wetting action and a proper bonding action between the matrix and the reinforcement material is going to take place under the influence of the pressure which is applied by the upper movable part with the help of a hydraulic press. And once the desired shape is obtained, it is left for a curing. Okay. Then the final product is removed from the mold cavity with the help of a ejector pin. Okay. So now, so advantages with this process can have a the metals with a poor fluidity. Okay. So can be used here. It need not to be a fully liquid. Okay. So where it is difficult to pour or stirred. Okay. So which is having a well, poor fluidity, those metals can be used here as a matrix material. So low shrinkage and a gas porosity, because the applied pressure, we are going to apply the pressure which is going to eliminate the air trapped between the end product, okay, or maybe the there will be a proper penetration of this matrix material into the fiber, okay. So that is ensured by the force or the pressure which you're going to apply by the hydraulic press. So enhance the mechanical property, okay, because these grinds are going to relate to the rapid solidification, and we are going to get a small size. So smaller size grains leads to the higher strength. And the whole product comes in contact with the mold surface. So we are going to get a very good surface finish also. So what are the disadvantages normally associated with this process is a costlier. So manufacturing the dies, okay, to the required shape is a bit costlier. So accurate metering of this molten metal is a difficult one, because so we are going to calculate that one by theory formulas, so which may not be that much accurate in the practical conditions. So normally this process is used in order to produce the engine pistons, okay, from a aluminium alloy reinforced with the aluminium short fibers, so which are having a light weight and a very good strength. Okay, so that's the second process normally which we use for a metal matrix composite material. Okay, and the next one is a very popular method for a ceramic as well as a metal matrix. It is a powder metallurgy process. So as the name itself indicates, a powder. Okay, so both reinforcement and the matrix material are in the form of a powder. Okay, so the flow chart of the process goes like this. So the steps which are involved in this one. So metal powders are mixed with the additives, that's a lubricators or maybe binders. They are mixed together. Proper mixing of that one should be done before compacting. So compacting is like applying a pressure, okay, with the help of hydraulic press or with a known weight and all. So next it is a sintering. So it is subjected to a high temperature or a temperature at which there will be a proper bonding, okay, between the particles. Okay, it is going to take place. That is what exactly is sintering. So once the sintering is done, so it is optional to have a secondary finish. If the mold in which you are going to sinter or compact these powders, so if it is having a good surface finish to the required shape, then there is no need of a secondary machining. So if not, okay, so you need to go for a secondary machining of the process. Then we are going to get a finished product. So now here, so how exactly we are going to produce the powders? Okay, so powders normally it is done in a normal process or a widely used process called a atomization. Okay, so atomization is something like a, so we are going to have a molten metal into that one. So there will be a stream of water which is going to strike when the molten metal is struck by the this high stream of water. Then those molten metals are broken into pieces, okay, or a small particles, and then they get solidified, and we are going to get a small size of particles. So means here, so the strength which you are going to get once the compact and sintering is done, so it is again dependent on the size of the particle also. Okay, so larger size, so lesser will be the grind boundaries. Okay, lesser will be the bonding. So smaller grain size, more will be the grind boundaries, and more will be the bonding. Okay, which leads to a eye strength and all. Okay, so that's what exactly how we are going to produce the powders. So then powders are mixed with the blending, that is a binders, so which are going to act as a binding medium for these particles. Okay, so how these particles are binded, okay, are bound by the force. Okay, those are decided by the type of the binding which we are going to use, and even the lubricants are added in order to facilitate the so easy what you call compaction of these powders, okay, or the mixtures. So next, when it comes to the compacting, okay, so compacting is done, okay, to compress these whatever the particles. Okay, so this will give a desired shape depending upon the mold which we are going to use. Okay, so the shape as well as the compactness. Okay, how much bonding it is going to have. So that is again the shape is decided by the die which we are going to use to compact that. Okay, so sintering is, as I said, it is heated to a particular temperature to get a strong a bonding between the particles. Okay, so this sintering is going to give a high strength, okay, high density and hardness, okay, thereby reducing the air gaps, that is a porosity inside the compacted model. Okay, so under the influence of the heat, bonding takes place between the porous aggregate particles, and once it is cooled, so the powder gets bonded to give a high strength end product. So what are the normal advantages we are going to get it from the powder metallurgy? It's a clean because it is in a closed chamber. So and the end product which you're going to get is a ready to use. So and the products which you're going to get are of a good surface finish and high production rate. Complex shapes can be produced. So what are the limitations? Metal powders and the equipment used are very costly. So in order to have a uniform sized metal particles to produce that one itself is a bit costlier. Okay, and storing of those metal powders, because when they are exposed to the atmosphere they may get oxidized also. And when we are going to reduce the size of the few metals, okay, so there may be explosion hazardous also. Okay, so like that, so we are going to have a what you call a few disadvantages associated with the powder metallurgy process. So normally this one is used in order to produce the self-lubricating bearing, filters, friction materials like a clutch liners, brake bands, gears, pump rotors. Okay, so cemented carbide tools. Okay, where the only the tip of the tool is coated with the hard material. Okay, so in a such application, so we use this method to produce the end products. So these are the three in general and famous methods normally we use for a production of a ceramic and a metal matrix composites. Okay, so these are the advantages as I mentioned earlier, and a few limitations with the cost and the melting, okay, and density products and all. Okay. So we have seen the till now the processing methods which normally we use for a particular polymer matrix, metal matrix, polymer matrix, metal matrix, and a ceramic matrix. So there are chances like so in a practical application where we can use more than one reinforcement. Okay, so we are going to use a combination of a reinforcement to give a more desired property. So those are called as a hybrid composites. Like say for example, so we are going to have a carbon aramid reinforced fiber. So we can have a carbon fiber as well as a aramid fiber. Okay, so like a glass fiber along with the carbon fiber. Okay, so this is to just achieve the directional property as well as a desired property which a application requires or demands. Okay, so many a times, so combining different types of fibers into a polymer matrix to manufacture hybrid composites can significantly improve the ductility of the composite materials. Okay, so that's about the hybrid composites. Okay, so what are the benefits normally we are going to get it from the hybrid composites? So high hardness, So good wear resistance, good color stability, high polishability, okay, so high abrasion resistance, so light cured. Okay. So by all these things, we are going to get a durable and a long-lasting restorations. Okay. So and when we are going to get a good surface finish, we can use it for a aesthetic applications. Okay. So that's about the processing. So we are at the end of these composite materials. So where exactly we are going to apply? So as we have seen, you find a n number of advantages and disadvantages associated with the composite material. We'll find a n number of application in a practical situation. So if you go on listing these things, so we can categorize them into the aircraft, okay, or we can say automobile sector, or we can say structural ones, or appliances or business ones, or we can say like a sports, or we can say surgicals or a medical field. Okay, so like that we have a plenty of application of this composite material in the present scenario. Okay, so when it comes to the aircraft, we can have a commercial, pleasure, and military aircrafts. Okay, so including components, so household application, and the civil construction, that is a structural composite materials. Okay, so like a sports, I said like a tennis rackets, golf clubs rackets. Okay, so mobile campus, or maybe the cover of that one, furniture, microwave, cookwares. Okay, the products which requires a corrosion resistance like a pumps. Okay, in a marine application. Okay, in the electrical, where we go with the switchboards, switch boxes, or the panels. Okay, even the coating of the cables. Okay, so we can find n number of composite material in a day-to-day life. Okay, so each category so will be having or requiring its own property. Okay, and the properties again are decided by the processing method, and the processing method again is decided by the matrix and the reinforcement material normally we use. So that's the theory part regarding the composite material. So moving on with that one, so we'll have a derivation to or methods to calculate the Young's modulus of a composite material when we use a various matrix and a reinforcement material and a few numerical which are associated with that. So thank you.